In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. I'm still thinking about what happened on January 6th in Washington, D.C. And I'm well aware of the ideological and mythological motivations that were driving those tens of thousands of people to lay siege to the congressional building and to crash it, resulting in about five deaths, and I'm sure many injured. And of course, that led to me thinking, well, what can we do? What can I do to ensure the safety of our people and to further our interest, our political and economic interest, in a time when it is obvious that the United States is fragmenting, literally falling apart? Which, by the way, is what a Pew Research survey found, that the majority of Americans believe. They believe that the United States, our nation, is falling apart. But I backed up and I stopped thinking about what we can do. And I said, well, I need to get objective. I need to be realistic. I need to put aside all presuppositions, and I need to look at the situation as it is as best I can. And when you look at the voting stats from the presidential election, and you look at, for instance, one national exit poll found that 19% of black men voted for Trump. Some have it as high as 28%, as did 9% of black women. When you see that, and then the Associated Press did a VoteCast survey and found a little less than 19% for black men. 12% of black men voted for Trump, and 6% of black women supported him as well. Those numbers, whether you take the first or the Associated Press numbers, those numbers are outrageous, but they do underscore something else that I've been thinking about, and perhaps forcing me to back up and say, well, maybe there's nothing that we can do. Not we, not us. And because we are fragmented. We are fragmented. And we've been fragmenting. Yeah, I guess in a sense, since they brought us forth from Africa. You know, we were all from different tribes. We spoke different languages. And some of the tribes were no doubt enemies even in Africa. And most of the Africans who were imprisoned were sold into slavery by other Africans. Just like freed slaves went to Liberia and enslaved Africans. And so, you know, I put together this illustration of our fragmentation here in the United States today. And you can see all of the fragments. These fragments, of course, suggest there was once a unity when actually there wasn't a unity. If you want to call living together as slaves a unity, well, you have to step back and realize it was a forced unity. We did not decide to live in slave quarters on plantations. Well, okay, but we can assume, well, we were together and we formed a slave culture and so forth and so on, and we call that Black history in America. But the fact is, look at the fragments. Look at all the different orientations, the different perceptions, the different worldviews, whether they be political or religious, or whether they be apathetic, whether they be criminal in nature. Look at the fragmentation of African Americans in the United States. You've got black Republicans, black feminists, LBGQ, the Muslims, the Christians, the black Hebrew, and black Scientologists, mythologists, cartoon creators. You've got the left. You've got the black Democrats, the progressives, the black neoliberals. You've got the sororities, and the fraternities and their tattoos and their little fraternal myths and sorority myths. You've got the Masons and the Daughters of the Nile, and you've got their myths. You've got the black media panhandlers. And I realized and I could have gone on fragmenting and fragmenting. It's like we've been blown apart. But the fact is, we've never been together. And we move apart from each other as though there is a repulsion that we have within ourselves for each other. And sociologists and philosophers that have emerged from our people have defined that as self-hatred. And we're not overcoming it. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And so I thought, why think? Why sweat through this thinking? Obviously, if there was ever a high point in black consciousness, we are now in the twilight of black consciousness. And everything here objectively reflects that. We are just not together. So why should I say, well, let me argue that we should have an independent internet platform? Well, because obviously, look at this, look at the fragmentation. We're not going to do it. It is the right thing to do, but we're not going to do it. I could argue that we should have an independent, pragmatic political party. I mean, I can define it. I could say, well, a pragmatic political party is a party that voices the current material interests of descendants of slaves in the United States. Within the context of African American life today as it is lived, not yesterday, not in Africa, but today as it is lived, the context of our life. I could argue that it is a pragmatic method which recognizes the ever-changing circumstances of our lives, not rooted in the past and not too futuristic, but rooted in the material conditions that we suffer today. I could argue that. But to what avail? I could argue it is not confined within any ideological or mythological frame, because those are divisive. Malcolm said that. Malcolm X said that we can come together no matter what our religious or political orientation and nail down the current most important issues that we face as a people. Why? Because, as he said, it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or whether you are a janitor. When you deal with white supremacists, such as those that crashed the congressional building, they're going to see a black person. Black, B-L-A-C-K. They have been brainwashed since childhood to be Aryanist, to believe in white and black is bad and white is good, and Jesus is white and the devil is black. That is the way they have been socialized. And they can't change. 90% of them don't even know they're brainwashed. Their mentality is cosmeticized with some superficial idea of nationality and patriotism. Why should I therefore argue for us to have a pragmatic political party that we control, that we lead, and that gives us real leverage when it comes time to vote? In other words, if there's nothing that you can put on our plate for us, you don't get our vote. So get out of our faces. Get lost. I could argue that we should have that pragmatic political party that is ours, and within it be free to evaluate unique issues, policy interests relevant to us, and free to apply political power in all forms to address and remedy social problems that we face as descendants of slaves in the United States. I could make that argument. But what for? Look at the fragmentation. We move away from each other as fast as we can. And we rationalize our self-hatred by claiming to have some ideological or organizational identity. I'm a Republican. I'm a LGBTQ. I'm a feminist. I'm a black feminist, and I hate, what has happened to women. Well, yes, black women have been treated like dogs, but guess what? That began on the plantation. I'm a leftist. I'm a socialist. I'm a communist. I'm neoliberal. I believe we have to be on the middle ground. So why try to suggest to such a fragmented people with locked minds, unable to think out of the box? Why suggest that, yes, we could come together and we can form a pragmatic political party of our own, free to apply methods that are practical, free to form alliances with those whose interests are identical to ours and who disavow their political interest groups whose interests are contradictory or contrary to ours. In other words, we can say you're either with us or you're against us, and I don't give a damn how you feel about it. So I'm just not gonna ask you to do what Brother Malcolm X suggested, and that is to form your own political party, a pragmatic political party, not an ideological political party, not a mythological political party rooted in your white supremacist religious images or ideals. Now, and what I just said has nothing to do with the existence of God. So I've said it before, don't play that game with me. See, Malcolm said, come together for that purpose. And make sure that you lead it, that you control it, and that you don't let snitches and informants from the FBI and police departments ruin it. Find a way to identify them, even if you give lie detector tests to the people that you elect to run for offices at the local, state, and federal level. And maybe Malcolm would have said, don't tell me you don't have any money, Negro. You had your butt at the movie watching the Black Panther, a Walt Disney white supremacist production, and you have paid them over $1 billion to see a cartoon movie. Don't tell me you can't come together regardless of your worldviews that differ. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth. You don't like yourself and you don't like anybody that has a similarity to you, but you will pretend to like yourself by saying, oh, Black History Month, oh, Africa, oh, Egypt, and just stop pretending. Look at the fragmentation. You don't like each other. You just can't get along. And you know what's going to happen? As America crumbles, as the white nationalist Aryan nation takes more power, and they are going to do it because they're in the institutions. You better read the Turner Diaries. You better read it so that you can find out what they have in store for us. They have in store our annihilation and the annihilation of people on the continent of Africa as well. So you better know thyself, and you better know thy enemies too. Know thy enemies. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.